Welcome to the KZGN News. Today we'll bring you news from Washington, Sacramento, today's 50th KZGN Talking Points editorial, and more.
From the Rademacher Hills to Bee Mountain and the mighty Sierras, Ridgecrest to Inyokern and China Lake, this is your news for the Indian Wells Valley with the KZGN News crew.
Hello, I'm Tom Windick. Thanks for joining us for the news affecting Ridgecrest and the Indian Wells Valley. In news from Washington, the House blocks federal funding for California high-speed rail. Congressman Kevin McCarthy released the following statement on House passage of the FY 2016 Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Funding Bill, which blocks the federal funding for the California high-speed rail project. He said, "America is a big country that relies on efficient and flexible transportation options so people can exchange goods, visit family, or simply head out to work. For many, it can take a lot to get from point A to point B, so our country needs continued investment to make sure people can travel where they need without a hitch." Today, the House acted to support and strengthen many of our nation's transportation needs. This bill prioritizes projects to ensure hardworking Americans' tax dollars aren't wasted on projects that don't reflect today's reality or tomorrow's potential. In our community, where driving is essential to our daily lives, we know that some dollars spent on transportation are more effective than others. For example, it's better to fix the roads and ensure rail safety than it is to waste tens of millions of dollars on California's high-speed rail boondoggle. Since being presented to the voters, this project's costs have exploded, ridership estimates have shrunk, and speed projections have been questioned when analyzed by engineers' brightest minds around. That is why the House has acted today to block federal dollars for California high-speed rail until the Surface Transportation Board examines this flawed project in its entirety, rather than its current piecemeal approach that makes the project look more viable than it really is. The process the Surface Transportation Board is currently using undercuts the trust taxpayers have with that government will ensure every taxpayer dollar is spent in the most productive way possible. I believe in a government that is efficient, effective, and accountable, and I will continue to fight against flawed government projects that place undue burdens on our communities. That was a statement from Congressman McCarthy. In news from Sacramento, it's been reported that the Shannon Grove bill received committee approval to close state-run developmental centers despite union opposition yesterday. Assemblyman Shannon Grove's legislation to close down two of the biggest abusive-ridden state institutions for the developmentally disabled passed the Assembly Human Services Committee. Despite reaching strong support from the developmentally disabled community, the bill almost died when the chair of the committee, Assemblymember Kansan Chu, withdrew his support after promising only days earlier to back the bill. Then two Democrats joined the two Republicans to move the bill forward. Public employee unions lobbied strongly against the proposal. I appreciate the bipartisan support for my proposal and that these legislators resisted pressure from the public employee unions and instead voted to protect developmentally disabled people still housed within these poorly run, overpriced institutions, said Shannon Grove. Most everyone agrees these developmental centers need to be shut down, but our state legislators have been dragging their feet for years because of public employee union pressure. Before the vote took place, almost every member of the Assembly Human Service Committee spoke in favor of closing these dangerous and archaic developmental centers. Democrat Assemblyman Ian Calderon praised Grove for her work on this issue, recalling a visit Grove made to his office to show him a video detailing rapes happening to residents within the Sonoma Developmental Center. Calderon even credited Grove's efforts as the reason Governor Brown just added developmental center closing dates within his revised budget last month. But in the end, Assembly members Calderon, Chu, and Thurmond refused to cast a vote after hearing testimony against the bills from representatives of the SEIU Local 1900, California Labor Federation, the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, the Union of American Physicians and Dentists, and the California Association of Psychiatric Technicians. Developmental centers have been operating in California since 1888, but the number of residents in the centers has declined substantially in recent decades. Recent numbers show just over 1,000 individuals remain in the developmental centers compared to over 260,000 individuals with developmental disabilities living in local, community-based settings. The 2015-16 state budget proposal outlines an expenditure of $530 million for the remaining 1,000 residents at an average cost of over $557,000 per person being cared for in these facilities. The budget also provides for over 4,300 staff positions in these developmental centers, and the funding for the centers has been held steady even though the caseload has declined dramatically. In contrast, when the California Department of Developmental Services moves a developmentally disabled person from a development center into a community-based service program, the cost per patient is reduced by more than half. The California Department of Public Health recently released documents directly attributing the deaths of 13 developmental center residents to abuse, neglect, and lack of supervision in the centers, and attributed partial responsibility for another 6 residents. Incidents include one resident smothering and eventually killing another resident while the employee in charge skipped required rounds to supervise patient activity. Another resident spent months suffering from an infection caused by a misplaced feeding tube that staff ignored or failed to notice before finally succumbing to that ailment. Allegations of horrific deaths and abuses were revealed last year by an organization dedicated to investigate reporting, including 36 cases of alleged rape and molestation where one child was produced. AB 1405 has now been referred to the Assembly Committee on Accountability and Administrative Review. A hearing has not been set yet. In city news, the Media and Art Committee met last Tuesday. As a result of the meeting, the Ridgecrest Media and Art Committee is inviting participation from all Indian Wells Valley businesses, organizations, and individuals interested in sponsoring and donating media and art to enhance the China Lake Boulevard corridor. There are 18 locations available for monuments. 8 have been chosen so far from organizations and businesses like Warren Automotive, Ridgecrest Regional Hospital, Swapsheet, Marriott, Ridgecrest Area Convention and Visitors Bureau, and Desert Valley's Credit Union. The Media and Art Committee is responsible for the city's public media and art program, including the placement of selected sculptures within the newly constructed North China Lake Boulevard Raised Median Project area. The approved theme for sculptures to be placed within the China Lake Boulevard median is petroglyphic, which is intended to reflect our nation's historic Native American petroglyph artwork. For more information and an application, please contact City Planner Matthew Alexander at 760-499-5063 or email him at malexander@ridgecrest-ca.gov. Stay tuned for today's KZGN Talking Points editorial after the break. Welcome back. Now it's time for the 50th KZGN News Talking Points editorial. Did you pick up on that? This is my 50th editorial. Wow. Oh boy. Okay. Today's topic is, should you have to wait to purchase a gun when you need it for self-defense? But first, a couple comments received about the last editorial titled, Should Elected Officials Be Forced to Participate in Internet Social Media Sites? Mayor Breeden offered the following. I think be forced is the wrong approach. Can they, should they, is more appropriate. However, if this is the sole source of communication, there is a very strong disconnect with many other voters. Dan wrote, I concur on not forcing participation. However, to treat it with disdain from the dais is not appropriate either, which happened on several occasions. Well, to the mayor, I want to thank you for participating. Perhaps you could encourage your council members to do so as well. To Dan, I agree with you. Finally, I don't think trying to force anyone to use internet social media would work. Most higher levels of elected offices use them without even thinking about it. Our local officials should do the same. Not only should they happily accept public comment, they should seek it out where the public is discussing things. After all, it's about engaging the public and providing information to the public. The internet is another means of communication with the public. Now with today's editorial. Should you have to wait to purchase a gun when you need it for self-defense? Here in California, we have a 10-day waiting period when purchasing a gun. While most of the country has an InstaCheck system, here in California and a couple other states, they have procedures that slows down a person's ability to exercise their constitutional right to bear arms. Well, to start this editorial, I need to report this breaking story from New Jersey. Carol Brown, a New Jersey woman, knew her best shot at defending herself from a violent ex was a gun, and not a piece of paper. And it was paperwork that left her unprotected when Michael Edel showed up at her New Jersey home last week and stabbed her to death, say Second Amendment advocates who charge local police routinely sit on firearms applications that they are supposed to rule on within 30 days. Brown, 39, had a restraining order against Edel when he killed her in her driveway last Wednesday, but she was still waiting for Berlin Township Police Chief Leonard Check to approve the gun permit she had applied for on April 21st. Tragically, she had gone to the Township Police Department just 2 days before her death to check on the status of her languishing application. Another indication of her fear of Edel, Brown had recently installed surveillance cameras around her home, and the equipment recorded the 45-year-old ex-con attacking her as she arrived home and got out of her car. She should have been granted that permit in a timely manner, especially given her status as a domestic violence victim. Carol would have qualified for a permit since she was attacked, only now it's too late. New Jersey's gun laws are among the strictest in the nation, but law-abiding citizens are eligible to purchase and possess handguns after filling out forms available at their local police stations, submitting to a background check on any possible criminal history or mental health issues, giving fingerprints, and paying a fee. Once those steps are taken, local police conduct a 14-point investigation, and the chief is supposed to approve or deny for cause within 30 days. That's the news from New Jersey. So you may ask, what's that got to do with California? Well, here in California, we don't have the requirement that a person has to apply for a permit to purchase a gun. Here in California, we have to do a background check to purchase. However, connected to that background check is a 10-day cooling off period. So even if you can legally buy a gun, you still have to wait 10 more days. The cooling off period is used to stop a person that may, in a rage, decide they want to kill someone. So they supposedly will run to a store, fill out all the paperwork, do the background check, and then run back and kill someone. On the reverse of that is the example from the New Jersey woman. She needed a gun now to protect herself now, and she was denied that constitutional right by an anti-gun government. Here in California, there was a court case brought against the states challenging the 10-day cooling off period. The argument was that if a person already has a gun, then there was no need to go out in a rage, go to a store, buy a gun, and return home to use it against someone. You already own a gun. A 10-day cooling period, off period, was ridiculous. Well, the court agreed with the NRA and struck down the law. However, the California Attorney General decided under political ideology pressure to appeal the decision. So that is where we are now, waiting for the appeals court to decide. The process the New Jersey woman had to go through to get a permit just to purchase is virtually the process we go through here in California to obtain a concealed carry weapons permit. Anti-gun advocates argue that women are more likely to have a gun they have taken away from them and then it being used on them. Well, the anti-gun position is that it's better to leave a woman with no chance to defend herself, to leave her totally without any defense. Oh wait, she can call the police for help. So the woman in New Jersey that just pulled into her driveway where the ex was hiding until she got out of her car, only then, she being faced with him before her holding a knife, that she had time to get out her phone and call the police for help, let alone have the police get there. Does everyone understand how stupid the argument is that the police will be there when we need them? And this is not a knock against the police department. The police are there to protect and serve, but they can't be everywhere all the time. It comes down to our constitutional right to own a firearm. We don't have to have a reason to purchase. However, having to go through a background check is totally right. We want to make sure bad or mentally ill people do not get guns. But once a background check is done and a person is found okay to purchase, then they should be allowed to take possession of the gun without delay. As a gun dealer myself, the background system works. Any instant check system works fine in almost all the other states. It would work here if California would just get off their anti-gun agenda. Waiting periods and permit processing are nothing more than an anti-gun government trying to stop people from exercising their constitutional right to gun ownership. In conclusion, let Sacramento know that you support background checks to purchase a gun, but the 10-day cooling off period provides no protection for a person under threat to their life. Unless they want to provide round-the-clock police protection for every person that has a restraining order against somebody, yeah, that won't happen. So the 10-day period has got to go away. Tell Sacramento. I'm Tom Whitnick, and that's what I think. I'd like to know what you think. If you have any comments about this editorial, or would like to discuss or recommend a topic, I'd like to hear from you. Please email them to info@kzgn.net. Stay tuned for weather and sports after the break. Thanks for staying with us. Let's go to Keith for the weather.
Thank you, Tom. The National Weather Service is forecasting a risk of severe thunderstorms from the central and southern plains across the mid-Mississippi Valley and into the southern Great Lakes. There's an enhanced risk across parts of southern Iowa, northwestern Missouri, and extending extreme portions of southeastern Nebraska and northeastern Kansas. Temperatures across the nation. Massachusetts came in at 78 degrees. Carolinas at 86, Arkansas 84, Kansas 79, Montana and Idaho both came in at 68 degrees, Utah 69 degrees, Arizona 88 degrees, San Francisco 59 degrees, and Los Angeles at 63. Our forecast for the IWV tonight, mostly clear with a low around 72, southeast wind 5 to 10 miles per hour, wind gusts highs 15. On Friday, we still have a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms possible, but it will be mostly sunny and hot with a high near 101 south wind 5 miles per hour. Friday night, 20% chance of showers and thunderstorms, but mostly cloudy with a low around 72, south-southwest wind 5 miles per hour. Saturday, sunny and hot with a high near 104 south-southwest wind 5 miles per hour. Saturday night, mostly clear with a low around 71, south wind 10 to 15 miles per hour. And on Sunday, sunny and hot with a high near 103. South-southwest wind, 10 miles per hour. And that is your local forecast. Back to Tom and the rest of your KZGN News.
Thanks, Keith. Let's go to Tom Heck for sports.
And a very pleasant Thursday afternoon to everybody. Let's start with hockey. The NHL playoffs last night, Stanley Cup. Chicago 2, Tampa Bay 1. That at the United Center in Chicago. The series now is 2 apiece. It'll go back to Tampa Bay on Saturday for Game 5. All right, baseball. Yasiel Puig is back, and in a big way. Had a home run last night, a 3-run homer, and then he, just for good measure, had the game-winning base-hit single to right field, a walk-off in the 9th inning as the Dodgers rolled past the Arizona Diamondbacks 7-6 for their second consecutive win in a row against Arizona. Two teams will play Game 3 tonight in Los Angeles. Down in Florida, the Angels dropped a 4-2 decision to Tampa Bay. The Angels the night before had an 8-2 win. They had 15 hits the night before. Last night could only muster up 5 hits. The loss went to Jared Weaver. All right, the Angels, though, however, have not lost any ground in their quest for first place, as the Astros lost their 7th game in a row last night. They lost 4-1 in Chicago. Boy, the Astros all of a sudden have just fallen completely apart. Luis Pujols 2 days ago hit his 536th home run. That ties him for 16 on the all-time list with the great Mickey Mantle. All right, other scores last night. Cincinnati beat the Phils 5-2. The Blue Jays won their 7th in a row. They beat the Marlins 7-4 up in Canada. The Nationals beat the Yanks in 10 innings. Oakland comes back and beats Texas in the 9th inning last night. The Rangers playing much better right now. Josh Hamilton had returned to the team, but he again on the DL list. Another 3 weeks for him with a knee problem. The Orioles win. The Cardinals win last night. They beat Colorado 4-2 in St. Louis. The Cardinals atop the Central Division. Pittsburgh over Milwaukee. Kansas City defeats Minnesota. Those two teams battling for first place in the AL Central. Atlanta beats San Diego for consecutive evenings. San Francisco playing very well again. They beat the Mets. And Seattle finally starting to wake up a little bit. The team that was really picked to do a whole lot better than they've done so far. They beat the Yankees 9-3 up in Seattle. All right, the National League standings, and we'll have Joey post them up there for you. You'll see over in the Central, the Cardinals, Cubs, and Pirates. The Cardinals have a good streak right now going. They're 18 games over 500. Over in the East, the Nationals that got off to a great start right now, and the Mets battling it out. The Nationals haven't played that well as of late. The Braves starting to play a little bit better. They are in third place. Out in the West, the Dodgers and Giants battling it out. The two rivals right there. San Diego, Colorado, and Arizona rounding out the numbers there. All right, tonight the Angels will play Tampa Bay in Florida. And then they will come home over the weekend and they'll take on the Oakland Athletics for 3 games. Then the Arizona Diamondbacks move in. It'll be interleague play for 2 games next week before the Angels hit the road again. That is your sports for this Thursday. Don't forget tonight also the NBA playoffs, game number 5 in Cleveland. That series, game number 4, I beg your pardon, that series 2-1 right now in favor of LeBron James and the Cavaliers. Should be interesting. Stephen Curry had a great second half the last game, but he's going to have to play in both halves tonight if they're going to have a chance to beat Cleveland, who is playing very well right now. And that is your sports on this Thursday. I'm Tom Heck for KZGN.
So that's the news for today. All of us at KZGN-TV know you have a choice in what you watch for your news. We all thank you for choosing KZGN-TV, Ridgecrest's only locally owned community TV station. Don't tune out yet, though. Stay with us for a video of a hailstorm in Phoenix. This is a doozy.
Well, I figured it would. I said I'm not surprised there aren't more windows busted. That was amazing.